Have you ever experienced being in an argument with somebody you love or really care about, or even some kind of disagreement, and then feeling like what you really needed was for your opinion, the way that the experience felt to you, to be understood, and heard the person that you were in this argument with apologize, but felt like the apology just didn't land well with you, almost as if like it was superficial, or you weren't sure if they really meant it, or it just really felt insincere? Now, this can be for a variety of different reasons, but I did want to, in this video, cover 5 different potential versions of an emotionally manipulative apology, or an apology that may not actually be sincere, and explain some of the reasons as to why this might be happening, and also how to construct a proper apology so you can help either guide somebody towards that in a relationship, or so that you can make sure that you're communicating why their apology didn't feel sincere and didn't land well with you, and then set a boundary around healthier conversation and communication going forward. Emotional manipulative apology number 1. I'm sorry that you feel that way. And especially when it's said with that kind of tone, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry that that's your experience. These sorts of dynamics of communication, it basically sounds like somebody saying, I am, sorry for your emotional experience, but I'm not sorry for my part in it. And this person, when they're on that side of the communication bridge, often either feels like they don't have a part in something and are unwilling to take responsibility, or is actually trying to manipulate the situation and maybe gaslight it a little bit or things like that. Now, more often than not, somebody is doing that because they have their own emotional experience about the situation first or at the same time. And so they're unwilling to budge. It's almost like coming from a place of stubbornness rather than like actual intentional manipulation. And this person may be saying something like that to you, like, I'm sorry that that's the way you feel, or I'm sorry you feel that way. And it's also a bit of a deflection. Now, if this is somebody you don't know that well, or somebody at work, or somebody that you're not going to like care enough to want to hash things out with, that's one thing. If it's like a distant coworker that you never really speak to or something along those lines, I get it. But if this is somebody you really love and care about, we're going to have to break out of the cycle of having that type of conversation and work through the situation by effectively communicating through it. And I'm going to share exactly how to do that at the end of this video. Number 2, sometimes we'll see more avoidant attachment style individuals say sorry as a deflection rather than as a sincere apology. And it can be to either avoid a conflict or to just kind of brush the conversation off because of not knowing how to work through it, or just not wanting to invest the emotional energy in doing so. So we may see somebody say, sorry, okay, I get it, sorry, I'm sorry I did that. And yet they're not really listening to like what they did, why they did it. They're not really seeing like how you felt about the situation, or even like wanting to share their experience, right? So that they can hash it out with you if they felt hurt or offended by something from your end. And whenever we see sorry, that's just this like brushing it off, like brushing it under the rug sorry. Usually what I would see, at least in my many years of working with couples in private practice, is that I would see that situation come back around a few weeks later, where like the situation wasn't actually solved for at its root. So somebody says, okay, sorry, I get it. Sorry, can we move on? And unless you actually talked about like what was going on, why each person reacted the way they did, what the needs were, or what the boundaries should be next time, sometimes the situation's waiting to kind of reemerge. Number 3, emotionally manipulative apology. Again, and it's not necessarily that somebody's like trying to manipulate you every time they do this and like it's a premeditated and intentional, but obviously it can sort of follow along this track indirectly. And it's the sorry, but you XYZ. So rather than hearing you out and your experience, somebody says, sorry, but I did this because you started with X, Y, and Z, right? So somebody kind of like, maybe you go to somebody and you say to them, hey, like the way you spoke to me a minute ago, like kind of hurt, like, can you not speak to me like that? Or can you be more sensitive toward those things in the future? And the person says, sorry, but you started it because 3 hours ago, you said to me this, that, and the other. And if somebody's doing that, the problem is that it's like an eye for an eye, right? And like that never works. what has to happen is we each have to hear and understand each other's needs and perspectives. And honestly, if somebody says, sorry, but you did X, Y, and Z 3 hours ago, or 5 minutes ago, or first, then that should have been hashed out as its own separate like entity of an experience, right? Like what I would say back to somebody if they said, sorry, but you X, Y, Z, I would say, hey, I hear that. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that that affected you. And I really am sorry for any feelings that you have in the experience. And I like see why you would feel the way you feel. And like, I'm totally willing to work on that with you. But I also want to let you know that you have to talk to me about that in that moment, not react this way to me to be hurtful back and then bring it up as like blame when I try to address it. Like I want to hear you. I want you to talk to me when you feel hurt and tell me, rather than reacting this way against me and then justifying it after the fact, right? So like we'd have to break those things apart into separate pieces so that we can actually solve for each individual situation. By the way, before I go through the next two things here, if you want to do a deep dive into like how to resolve any relationship that's on the rocks, how to work through different pain points or challenges you're facing in romantic relationships, or even family relationships, friendships, I have a course you can check out for free for 7 days. It's called How to Repair Any Relationship. And it will take you through all the types of conversations you need to have, how to help each other de-escalate when conflict is brewing so that you have these tools that can help you navigate really tough or challenging conversations, and also the steps that have to take place to resolve core issues, whether it's a trust challenge that you're facing or some kind of emotional disconnection or physical intimate disconnection, or not being on the same page for some reason, or having to work through a big problem, like having to move to separate countries. Like it will now help you navigate all the steps you need to properly communicate, to learn to de-escalate, to have the tough conversations, to come up with solutions and strategies. So again, you can use it. You can check it out for free for 7 days. You can use the link below. That link actually gives you access to all of PDFs. So you can check out all of our different courses for that period of time. And you can join me on webinars. I do 4 webinars every single week. You can join me. You can ask me your questions live on camera. We can chat, or you can have your camera off and just do audio, or type them in the chat if you prefer, whatever's most comfortable for you. And I'm there 4 days a week for that, for up to 2 hours each time. So lots of time to get questions answered. And we also have daily community events. So you can meet other like-minded individuals, all kinds of really cool stuff going on in PDS. So again, you can use the link below for free for 7 days. How to Repair Any Relationship course is the one I was referencing. So number 4, emotional manipulative apology number 4 is sorry with an attitude. Okay. So this is like our sorry, like calm down, like that kind of expression. And that's not sincere, right? That's not landing with anybody. That's like somebody not communicating directly, about how they feel about the way you're communicating to them, right? Like sorry or calm down, like these sorts of expressions are like, hey, what we could say instead, if we really felt like somebody's coming too far on the offensive towards us, is, hey, I see that you're upset right now. I understand that you're upset. I want to understand why, but can you try to communicate a little more calmly so we can like communicate constructively, right? So I can hear you. And that is the alternative to saying calm down, or, sorry, like take it easy. And it sounds small, right? These little reframes, these little shifts, but they go such a long way with communication. Number 5, if you experience somebody saying to you, I'm sorry, but it's not worth hashing this out. It's not worth talking about this. I'm unwilling to go back there. You have to forget about the past, forgive and forget, stop bringing up the past. Like, again, what's happening when somebody brings up the past is they don't feel resolved yet, and things haven't been hashed out effectively enough. And so this is what brings me to the last and one of the most important points of this video, which is like, how should we communicate around problems? And there's a few key ingredients that need to be there. And again, this stuff's all in the How to Repair Any Relationship course in a lot of detail, a lot more detail than I can put in this video. But number 1, there should be an acknowledgement of the other person's feelings. Now, we don't have to be okay with a person's behavior. We can still acknowledge their feelings anyways. So let's say that Somebody behaves in a certain way and then I pull away and now they're mad at me that I pulled away. It might feel like an injustice, like, well, I didn't like how you behaved towards me. I can still see. So let's just to make that super clear, because I feel like that might have been unclear. Let's say it's Bob. Bob comes to me. Bob raises his voice and I pull away. And then Bob's like, hey, I'm trying to talk to you. Why are you rejecting me? And Bob doesn't know how to communicate appropriately. I can say, hey, Bob, I see that you're upset. I care that you're upset. I actually want to understand why you're upset and what's bothering you. And I want to like hash it out together and get to the bottom of it. But also, it's not okay for you to raise your voice at me. And I'm not ready to communicate with you until you're ready to communicate to me in a healthy tone. Right. So like I can say, I'm sorry if I hurt you. Like, I don't know what's hurting you, but I want to understand, right? I can get that message across, but I can also say, hey, and the way you're acting right now is not appropriate. And so like, when you're ready to have a healthy conversation, come back to me. And so I'm acknowledging the feelings, but not necessarily saying the behavior is okay. Right. So when somebody, when we need somebody to apologize, or if somebody, if roles are switched, that's a really important thing. So true apologies, healthy apologies have an acknowledgement of the emotions. Number 2 ingredient is a curiosity and a willingness to understand why the other person is hurt. It's such an important ingredient when it comes to apologizing. And then some kind of solutioning event, which means, what do you need? What can we do from here? What do you want me to understand going forward? How do we stop this situation from happening again in the future? And if this is a two-way conflict, it's not a one-way conflict. So it's not like I just said something rude to you without realizing, and now I owe you an apology. If it's, a two-way event, then we can flip that around, right? And we can share our point of view, our feelings, our needs, our perspective. So there can be a two-way conversation here, but those are the key ingredients for healthy communication going forward. So I hope this makes sense. Again, you can check out the How to Repair Any Relationship course down below for free for 7 days, along with all courses at PDS. And you can join me on live webinars, ask me your questions. I would love to meet with you and hear more about what you're experiencing. And thank you so much for watching and for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.